This is part of my life story written for the secretaries in the CES Salt Lake Valley East area on the 16th of April 1998. My history, as far as church history is concerned, begins with my grandmother, who joined the church in Hamburg, Germany around 1910, a miracle that had the greatest impact on my life and the development of my faith as I grew older and encountered the trials of my faith. She had 17 children. Only 4 grew up to adulthood. By 1910, she had had a constant headache for 16 years. It always felt as if an iron band around her head pressured it. The family was very poor. To help with the meager income, my grandmother would go from door to door and sell notions, pins, needles, thread, shoelaces, and the like. One day, a lady had a conversation with her that would change her life and her family's for generations. She asked my grandmother, "Are you sick? You don't look well at all." My grandmother told her, and she said, "You should join our church. We have the healing of the sick." My grandmother became interested, listened to the missionaries, and was converted. When she stepped out of the river where she had been baptized, her headache was gone and never, ever returned. I knew if a miracle like that could happen to my grandmother, a miracle could happen to me when I needed it. My father was baptized around the same time as a 10-year-old boy, and much later, when I came along, I was the 3rd generation in the church. My father had baptized my mother before they were married. The first years of my life were normal and wonderful, and there was peace in the world and in Germany as far as I could see. But underneath the visible surface, the ugly, ominous began to grow. My uncle-in-law was Jewish and well informed, and often talked to my father about the political development in Germany and his fears. My father was really the only one in the family who was interested. My father never became a Nazi and was able to keep himself out of the Nazi party, which was quite miraculous. My uncle offered my father to send him to America, but my father did not accept his offer. It would probably have created grave difficulties for our family in Nazi Germany to have our father in the US, Germans' enemy. As my uncle saw the danger coming for himself as a Jew, he made plans to flee to Denmark. He owned 1/2 of an airplane. As Germany saw the further need for pilots, they encouraged civilians to purchase planes with government help and get their pilot license. My uncle had the means, trained, and then one day just took off to never return. Luckily, the firing from the ground, as his intentions became apparent, did not hit him. He emigrated from Denmark to Hollywood, where he had friends, and had his wife, my aunt, join him. He did his best to influence his family, all Jewish, to leave Germany as well, but without success. Their property in land, business, home, and valuables was too precious to just leave them. In the end, they lost it all and their lives in the Holocaust. My uncle never saw them again. My first awareness of the Nazi hatred of the Jews came when the government began setting a mark on the Jews. They had to wear visibly a yellow Star of David on their coat. I still remember how it pained me to see them so ashamed in our neighborhood. Not only Jews had to fear. I remember too being very much afraid. We had a boy living in our neighborhood whose father was a big Nazi, and somehow his son had a fiendish delight to be like his father. He accused me of calling him a Nazi Schwein, a Nazi pig. Pig in English doesn't sound very abusive to me, but in German that was a serious offense. Of course, I never said it. I didn't even have it in me. But that did not make any difference to him. He loved to threaten me, and I did feel threatened. I tried very hard not to run into him. Supermarkets were not invented yet. Instead, we had a fruit and vegetable store, one for dairy products, and a third one for staples like sugar and flour, right within a few houses on our street. Refrigeration had not been invented either, so you bought small portions and went to the little stores quite often, every time there was a chance to see him. Hamburg is built around a lake in the middle of the city. Beautiful trees and park-lined canals lead from the lake into the outer parts of the city. We lived very close to one of these canals, and my brother and I would ice skate on the canal in the winter. One day we decided to visit my father, who worked in the middle of town along another canal and close to a restaurant. After crossing the lake and entering this canal, we could not know the water was warmer because of the restaurant and the ice much thinner. I broke through the ice, and with my heavy skates pulling me down, I would have drowned if a Nazi youth leader would not have rescued me. He took me to the city and county building, the old and stately Rathaus, which also housed a police station. The policeman felt sorry and wanted to do something nice for me. The nicest thing they had to offer was an almost empty jar of jam that they let me scrape clean. When my father picked me up and wanted to show his appreciation to the Nazi youth leader, this young man asked for Hitler's book Mein Kampf and a special official leather case, a status symbol for a leader like him. I remember how hard it was for my father to buy those two things for him. When my brother and I were inducted into this youth organization called Hitlerjugend, Hitler Youth, we had to swear an oath of allegiance. My brother, who had much more nerve than I, decided we would not swear the oath, but mumble some other words like rhabarber, which is rhubarb. It gave us an immense feeling of accomplishment that we were actually not members of this organization. Schluss. For now.